My name is William Kennedy. My wife's name is Victoria. She doesn't like being called Vicky, so everyone who knows her calls her Victoria. To my wife, family, and friends, I go by William. Strangely, my boss at work, who's a bit formal, always calls me William. We get along well, and I enjoy my job. I work as a lawyer for a company that does management consulting and accounting, focusing on corporate law. I work long hours, but I have some flexibility to set my own schedule when necessary, and if the project allows it. I have deadlines, but I make sure to meet them so my boss doesn't have any issues. Victoria works for a publishing company and spends most of her time working from home editing other people's writing. She can usually set her own hours, which gives her time to take care of our 3 kids. We have 2 daughters, aged 8 and 6, and a 5-year-old son. We're a typical family with busy schedules, lots of activities with the kids, and trying to have some fun along the way. As a couple, we aim to go out together at least twice a month. We don't always manage it, but we make an effort. Until recently, I thought Victoria was happy with her life, with our life. Despite working 60 hours a week, I believed she was content. I thought we had a strong relationship. Our bed life was active, and I made sure to do little things to show my love for her and to appreciate her role as a wife and mother. But about a year ago, on one of our date nights, everything changed in our relationship and marriage. Victoria started a conversation that would change the direction of our lives. "Honey, do you ever feel like we're missing out on things?" I replied. "Gosh, I'm not sure. What things are you thinking about, Victoria?" She went on. "Lately, it feels like we're stuck in a routine. I'm not sure if you see it too, dear. What does that routine look like to you?" She explained. "It seems like all we do is work and take care of the kids. We hardly have any time for ourselves." I thought about what she said and guessed where she might be heading. "Would you like to go on a vacation, just the 2 of us? We could ask your parents to watch the kids for a week, go to the Caribbean for some sun and beach. We could both use some relaxation." Victoria surprised me. "That sounds nice, honey, but I had something else in mind to shake things up in our lives a bit." Now curious, I asked, "What exactly are you thinking, dear?" Victoria hesitated, then began. "You know how we've talked about pretending to pick up others and have closeness with them? What if we actually tried it?" My heart raced. "What are you suggesting?" She urged. "Just hear me out for a minute. What if we explored the idea of having an open marriage? We would take it slow and see if it works for us before making any big decisions." Caught off guard, I confessed, "This is surprising. I don't know what to say." Victoria persisted. "Think about it. What if we found other people who were compatible with us to have closeness with occasionally, without any romantic commitments? Imagine the passion and excitement we could bring back into our marriage and to each other." I realized I was holding my breath, then said, "What exactly are you proposing, Victoria? You want to be intimate with another man?" She smiled and explained, "It wouldn't be cheating, dear. It'd be casual, with no romance, no relationship like ours, just occasionally, maybe a few times a month. That's it. What do you think?" Stunned, I asked again. "Let me make sure I understand. You want to have sex with other men a couple of times a month?" "Well, it doesn't have to be exactly twice a month. It could be more or less depending on what we decide." I couldn't have been more shocked if she had hit me with a hammer. I pondered for a moment. "We both get to be involved in this?" "Yes, of course. We both get to share in the excitement. Just imagine the new things we could discover about pleasuring each other that we haven't explored yet. Think about the rekindled passion we could experience," Victoria explained. I let out a breath. "But how would we even start? Do you already have someone in mind if I agree? Because right now, I'm not on board, Victoria." "Take a moment to consider it. We could enjoy intimacy without any obligations. It would be at a time that doesn't disrupt our schedules or family life, and we'd still be there for each other just like before. Our family wouldn't be impacted, and our personal lives might even improve. Together, we'd experience a boost in passion and connection." Deep down, I sensed something was off. Victoria always plans everything carefully, and this situation was no exception. I suspected she had spent a lot of time imagining this scenario, and might even have someone specific in mind to be intimate with if I agreed. "So just to clarify once more, you're saying we can both seek other partners outside of our marriage. You won't feel jealous, upset, or hurt if I'm with another woman, and you expect me to be okay if you're with another man. Is that what you're proposing?" I questioned. "Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. What do you think? Should we give it a shot?" she asked eagerly. I needed to get to the heart of the matter if I wanted to uncover the truth. Who was this guy she wanted to be intimate with? "If I agree to this wild idea, when do you want to start?" And who's the person you have in mind? I inquired. Her eagerness to have me on board with her plan gave away a clue. Well, there's this guy, Ian, at the publishing company who's been asking me to lunch whenever I'm at the office. He's younger than us, and from what others say, he's already in a relationship. The secret's out. She's interested in some young guy named Ian. So Ian, huh? Well, what do you think, honey? Are you up for trying something new to spice up our marriage? She asked. I still don't see how you being with another man will improve our marriage. If you want better intimacy, why not explore ways we can enhance it together, with each other, not someone else? How does adding another man to the mix improve our connection? I just want to understand this is about us, I explained. Imagine the fresh perspectives we could gain from each other, like hiring a consultant for new ideas. Why not consider seeing a therapist together? You having an affair with some guy doesn't seem like it would benefit our relationship at all, I added. Victoria struggled to let go of the idea of seeing a sex therapist. Honey, trust me, my suggestion is for our benefit. I'd never do anything to harm our marriage, she insisted. I was growing frustrated with her persistence. Victoria, I don't control you. I can only share my thoughts on how this might affect us and our family. But think of it as an adventure for both of us. Imagine how much we could learn and grow together, she urged. Victoria, this isn't like signing up for a class. You're suggesting being intimate with another man. Good grief, I muttered, rising from the table and heading to the men's room to splash cold water on my face. As I looked at myself in the mirror, I sensed she had ulterior motives, likely determined to do as she pleased, regardless of my objections. I dried off and returned to the table, not at all convinced that Victoria's plan would improve our marriage. I believed it would add more complications to our lives. We had plenty to deal with already, without introducing sexual relationships with others, even if we agreed to it beforehand. What bothered me most was that I married Victoria expecting us to be exclusive to each other. That's what marriage means to me. There's an expectation of loyalty and monogamy, or at least that's what I thought. We even promised it in our wedding vows, to be faithful to each other. It was clear my wife wasn't finding sexual fulfillment with me, and that saddened me. The following 2 weeks were tense between us. She kept smiling at me, expecting me to agree with her plan. She even intensified our usual sex routine of twice a week. For a whole week, she wanted sex every night. After putting the kids to bed, she'd take my hand and lead me to the bedroom. We showered together, exploring each other with soapy hands. Victoria was attractive and in shape, clearly desiring more intimacy than twice a week. Had I been neglecting her needs? In bed, she was more eager than I'd seen her in years, wanting to try various positions we hadn't used since before having kids. Maybe we had fallen into a rut. But was having sex with others the solution? A week later, with no mention of an open marriage, I thought she had forgotten the idea. Maybe more sex was what she truly wanted. I was wrong. Victoria continued initiating intimacy every night. After a particularly passionate session where she engaged me twice, she brought it up again. Honey, have you considered trying an open marriage like I suggested? Dang. Honestly, I was kind of hoping all the extra sex meant you changed your mind about the whole thing, I admitted. Well, the closeness with you lately has been awesome, but it's been pretty much the same every time. We need to switch things up, make it more exciting. That's what I'm hoping we can learn from others, she explained. I felt disappointed that she still wanted an open marriage. So you still want us to be open so you can be with other men, I said, my tone showing I wasn't happy about it. Don't be so down, Will. This is a chance for us to grow individually and bring new experiences to our marriage. The passion and excitement you want, you're not getting it with me right now, are you? This is an opportunity for both of us to explore new things to bring back to our relationship. I think it'll make us stronger as a couple. Victoria, as I've said before, I don't control you. You make your own choices. If this is truly what you want, then I guess you'll go ahead with it, even if I disagree. Just be cautious about what you're seeking because every decision has consequences. Thank you, Will. You'll see. This will benefit both of us. With that conversation, it seemed settled. I left the room to grab a strong drink. I knew my marriage was over, and there was no point in trying to change her mind. Victoria had what she wanted, free rein to be with other men. There wasn't much I could do to stop her. This situation was all messed up, but it was time for her to face the consequences. 1 month later, Victoria wasted no time in meeting up with Ian from her workplace. They met twice a week, despite our agreement not to stay overnight with lovers. After their 4th meeting, she began texting me late, claiming she had been drinking wine and shouldn't drive. How convenient. I advised her to take a cab. After putting the kids to bed one Saturday, we sat down to discuss what had been happening over the past month. Victoria, we need to clarify some things about this open marriage arrangement. We shouldn't be doing things that the other person isn't comfortable with or hasn't agreed to. Well, what specific things are you referring to? Well, to begin with, we agreed no overnight stays. But you've spent the night with Ian 4 times in the past 2 weeks. That's not what we discussed. I want you home at night. Honestly, I worry when you're not here. You don't tell me where you're going, and that needs to change. Are you just upset about having to handle the kids' morning routine alone? No, this isn't about the kids. This is about your actions and our agreement. All right, no more overnight stays. What's next? Perhaps we should create a written agreement, acknowledging our responsibilities to each other, the kids, and as a family. But Will, that seems unnecessary. We're adults. We can handle this. Maybe so, but I believe communication is crucial for making this work. When you turn off your phone while with another man, it worries me. Your safety is important to me. Another concern is protection. Is your partner using protection? I'm on birth control, Will, if that's what you're worried about. Victoria, I'm concerned about sexually transmitted diseases. Did he provide proof from a doctor that he's STD-free? I didn't ask, but I'm sure he's fine. So he's not using protection. Does he end it inside you? Victoria blushed at the question. Yes, he does. If he had an STD and didn't tell you and then passed it to you, you could pass it to me if we ever have sex again. Victoria fell silent. In my mind, I decided I wouldn't have sex with her again, at least not now. Victoria, when you decided against a monogamous marriage, it came with responsibilities. Do you plan to stop having sex with me? It had to be said, even if it wasn't what Will would say. I love you dearly. We have children, and we want to grow old together and take care of each other. I grew increasingly upset by her disregard for our well-being. I didn't know what else to say. I want to have a conversation with Ian. Victoria was surprised by my request. What? Why do you want to talk to him? I want to meet him and have a chat. I want to ensure that he's prioritizing her safety and interests. Honestly, I wanted to confirm if Victoria had been truthful with him about our agreement. I wasn't sure if she had made it clear to Ian that their relationship was purely physical, without any romantic expectations. Victoria was too secretive about her activities for my liking. I suspected he might be expecting things she couldn't or wouldn't give, like love. Was she in love with him? It's rare for someone to love 2 people equally. As feelings develop for one person, affection for another typically diminishes. That's human nature. I felt I'd already lost my wife the day she considered an open marriage. I hadn't sought out my own partner. Frankly, I wasn't interested until now. But seeing this new side of my wife made me think what's good for her should be good for me too, 6 months later. All right, it's been several months since we opened our marriage. Victoria now has a steady boyfriend. First, it was Ian. Now it's a guy named Henry. About 5 months ago, I insisted on meeting him. Victoria opposed it, which only strengthened my resolve to have a conversation with him about the woman he's involved with. One day, I visited the publishing company office to find him. It was a day when I knew Victoria would be working from home. I arrived at the offices, and the receptionist directed me to Ian's cubicle. He was there. I have to admit, I was surprised by the young man I met. He appeared to be in his mid-20s, about my height, with brown hair and a slender build. I introduced myself, and as he stood to shake my hand, he quickly realized I was Victoria's husband, and withdrew his hand. I wondered what that was all about. Hello, Ian. I'm Will Kennedy, Victoria Kennedy's husband. We need to talk. Let's find somewhere private to have a conversation. There are important matters to discuss. I gestured for him to follow me. I wasn't certain he would, but he did, albeit nervously. Perhaps he thought I was there to confront him. It seemed his perspective on his relationship with my wife differed greatly from mine. We settled in a nearby coffee shop and ordered some coffee and a croissant. I wanted him to feel at ease enough to speak openly with me. So, Ian, could you tell me a bit about yourself? Ian seemed jittery, but after several inquiries, I began to unravel the truth about his understanding of his relationship with Victoria and his expectations of her. Eventually, through persistent questioning, I gleaned some revealing insights into their true relationship. It appears Victoria began engaging in sexual activity with Ian roughly a month before we agreed to an open marriage. Ian consistently refrained from using protection, asserting he was free of diseases and willing to undergo testing. He relayed Victoria's concerns about our marriage's state, suggesting I lacked emotional support, and she contemplated separation or divorce. Additionally, she conveyed my supposed acceptance of her involvement with other men. Ian inquired if I harbored resentment towards him and if I intended retaliation. I assured him otherwise, visibly calming him. However, I firmly instructed him to use protection with Victoria going forward, with no room for negotiation. I warned of potential consequences if he disregarded this directive. Does your girlfriend know that you were having sex with Victoria? What girlfriend? Victoria is my girlfriend. Victoria told me that you had a girlfriend, and then having sex with her was in addition to your other relationship. My last girlfriend and I broke up months ago. Victoria is my only girlfriend now. This strongly indicated Victoria's lack of honesty with me. She had deceived me about her connection with Ian and her expectations for their future together. It became evident that her vision for the future diverged significantly from mine at that moment. A couple of nights later, Victoria was furious with me for meeting Ian. Will, why did you go see Ian? He mentioned that you were angry and threatened him. I smirked inwardly. Did he tell you that I insisted he use a protection if he wants to have sex with you? Yes, he did. But using protection ruins the fun. Why are you insisting on that? We're both STD-free, for God's sake. She was visibly upset now. I took the mature approach. Honey, I'm just concerned about your safety. We agreed that you and he would use protection. You consented to that. Victoria muttered something and stormed off. We didn't speak for 2 days. When we finally talked, she was furious once more. Are you satisfied now? Ian ended things with me. I won't see him again. That's what you really wanted, right? When you went to see him. What I wanted, my dear wife, was to ensure your safety. I didn't want you to risk getting a disease that could harm you or even be fatal. That's what mattered to me. I also wanted to prevent any disease from spreading to me, although it seems unnecessary since we haven't been intimate in so long that I can't even remember the last time. What happened to the idea that this open marriage would benefit us and strengthen our relationship? When will that happen, Victoria? I was angry with her, and she knew it well. Well, I hope you're satisfied now. And she stormed off. A coldness settled over our marriage. It was a very silent month. We hardly spoke to each other, and then everything suddenly changed. Victoria announced that she was meeting a new man. She dressed up in a revealing blouse and skirt, paired with 4-inch high heels. Her hair and makeup were flawless, and she wore a new perfume that I hadn't noticed before. Suddenly, she was exceptionally sweet. She called me dear for the first time in a while as she mentioned going out to meet someone she met online. Alarm bells went off in my mind. All right, where are you going and who are you meeting? I reminded her that she was expected home tonight, emphasizing it should be tonight, not at 4 a.m. Things quickly spiraled out of control after that. However, I did manage to learn his name, his occupation, and that he was divorced. She began by seeing Henry once a week, but after a few months, she was nearly living with him. She only stays at home a few nights a week, sometimes just one, typically when her lover is away for work. I believe he works as a sales representative for a pharmaceutical company, but Victoria is secretive about him. I grew tired of her behavior and moved her belongings to the spare bedroom. She was taken aback, but I explained it would be easier if I had overnight guests, especially since I'm the one caring for the kids all the time. Her belief that having a relationship with another man would ignite passion and intensity in our marriage didn't turn out as she hoped. Instead, it brought about a lot of drama. I found myself growing increasingly frustrated with Victoria. I probably should have divorced her long ago, but I didn't want our kids to experience a broken home. Plus, even if I did leave, the children would be left with a mother who wasn't there for them at night. It was a challenging period for me. I couldn't comprehend why she wanted to engage in such behavior, nor could I understand my own reasons for tolerating it. Her hope that having a relationship with another man would spark more passion in our marriage didn't pan out as expected. Instead, it brought a lot of drama into our lives. I found myself increasingly frustrated with Victoria. Perhaps I should have ended our marriage long ago, but I couldn't bear the thought of our kids growing up in a broken home. Even if I did leave, they'd be left with a mother who wasn't there for them at night. It was a tough time for me, trying to understand why she pursued such behavior and why I put up with it. Yes, you're suggesting that I'm not exempt from blame, and you're probably right. I was too lenient with her and her actions. I ended up taking on most of the parenting responsibilities while she was hardly ever home. It was noticeable to the kids who missed having their mother around. They asked about her almost every day, wondering why she had to be away so much. Initially, I told them she was spending time with a friend and would return soon. However, seeing her only 1 or 2 nights a week made it hard for them to believe her declarations of love. My oldest, who was 9, even asked, Dad, why does Mom spend so much time with her friend? Who is her friend? It was difficult to explain. Victoria began neglecting important responsibilities she usually handled for the kids. One afternoon, the school called to inform me that the parent-teacher interviews, which Victoria typically attended, had occurred the day before without her presence. The vice principal expressed concern, as Victoria was usually reliable, and offered to reschedule if there were any issues. Attempts to reach Victoria by phone were unsuccessful as her phone was switched off, leading to voicemail. I apologized to the school and promised to arrange a new appointment the following day. When I tried contacting Victoria, her phone went straight to voicemail. I left a distressed message questioning her absence from the meeting and urging her to call me back. For 3 days, she didn't call and dismissed it as trivial. I wanted her to return home so we could talk. She agreed to come over that Friday afternoon. I took time off and prepared to give her an ultimatum. However, on Friday, she called to cancel, citing a potential work commitment. It seemed like she was stalling, likely due to pressure from her boyfriend. The next significant incident that drew a clear boundary was our daughter's birthday. Most parents celebrate their children's birthdays to show love and care. Kids expect presents, cake, ice cream, and friends. My children were no exception. But when your mother forgets your 10th birthday, it's hard to ignore. A few weeks earlier, I asked Victoria if she would plan our daughter's birthday party. She assured me she would handle it well. However, as time passed, there was no action from her end. So I took charge, sending out invitations, buying a gift for my daughter, booking a venue, and arranging food. I hoped Victoria would remember, but she didn't. My daughter was devastated that her mother wasn't there for her party. When other parents asked about Victoria, I made up a work-related excuse. My daughter felt deeply hurt by her mother's absence. I called Victoria, and when she answered, I handed the phone to my daughter. "Mom, it's me. Where are you?" Victoria hesitated for a moment. "What's up, honey?" "Mom, today's my birthday." "Why aren't you here? We had a party, but you didn't come." There was silence on the line. My daughter thought her mother had hung up and gave my phone back to me. "Victoria, are you still there?" I heard crying. "Victoria, what's wrong?" "You missed Emma's birthday, for goodness sake." The call ended abruptly. A neighbor approached me quietly, asking if everything was okay with Victoria. She hadn't seen her around lately and sensed that our relationship was strained. That evening, I reached a breaking point. Victoria's disinterest in both me and our children led me to the decision to proceed with a divorce. In essence, we were already living separate lives. It was time to bring the situation to a close. The following day, I dialed Victoria's number, expecting her voicemail to pick up immediately. Leaving a brief yet urgent message, I requested her to call me back promptly. Alternatively, I urged her to come over to the house for a conversation. Surprisingly, using the word urgent seemed to catch her attention as she showed up at our house after dinner that same night. "Will, what's the matter? Why did you say it's urgent and important? Are the kids all right?" "Hello, Victoria. I'm glad you came. Thank you. We really need to have a serious talk. Please, take a seat." She glanced at her watch as I spoke. "Don't worry, this won't take too long. So, what's on your mind?" "Well, since you've been away, the kids keep asking when you're coming back home. Are you planning to return, Victoria? Because it seems like you've already left us." "Of course I'll come back, Will. I've mentioned before that I need this time to rediscover the passion and closeness we've lost. Once I've fulfilled that need, I'll be back home. I'll be a better wife, and we'll be a family again." "Sure. Just so you're aware, Emma was heartbroken the other night when you didn't show up for her birthday party, and our other 2 kids have been wondering if you'll be there for their birthdays too." Victoria's eyes widened, revealing her shock. "How could you forget your own children's birthdays? Now here's the hard truth for both you and your lover." "Victoria, I've made up my mind. I want a divorce." "What? Why are you asking for a divorce, Will? I'll be back home soon." "Victoria, there's no marriage left here. You're not fulfilling your role as a wife, and since you've already left the house, I can't fulfill mine either. To be honest, you shouldn't have left in the first place. I've stayed quiet for the sake of our kids, but this situation has gone too far. You moved out and settled things months ago, barely remembering that you have children and obligations to them, let alone to me. My lawyer says the court will view this as abandonment of our marriage and our kids. But Will, I love you and the kids. Can't you see that?" "No, Victoria. I don't see any love. If you truly loved your husband, you wouldn't be having an affair. If you cared about us, why did you leave? Why did you move in with your boyfriend? Talking about bringing passion and intensity to our marriage is just a joke. I won't even bring our kids into this conversation, as your actions speak volumes about how much you care for them. The joke's on me, but I'm done laughing. We're getting divorced as soon as possible. Pack your things to go back to him. You're not my wife anymore. I'm not your husband. I'll start looking for a new wife and mother for our children. But Will, we're married. I'm your wife. You're my husband. I love you. I don't want a divorce. Well, I do want a divorce. I've looked into it, and the courts here recognize when someone has abandoned their marriage. You left our marriage and our kids, so leave the house. Go back to Henry where you want to be. I don't want you here anymore. Victoria seemed surprised by my words, gathered her purse, and quietly left. What I hadn't told Victoria was that while she was with her new boyfriend, I had started looking for someone to have fun with. I found a woman named Charlotte. She had 2 kids, and her husband had left her for a younger woman. I went on a date with her, and my kids were thrilled. When I got back, my daughter came down and asked about my date. Honey, it went really well. I had a great time. Charlotte is a very nice person. I like her a lot. Is she going to be our new mother? Wow, where did that come from? Kids these days seem to know more than I did at their age. That's not something you need to worry about, sweetie. Besides, this was only our first date. I'm not sure when there will be a second. Dad, is Mom ever coming back? That was a tough question. I spoke softly. I don't know, but I know one thing for sure. I'm not going anywhere. I'll always be here with you, your sister and brother. You can count on that. Thanks, Dad. She hugged me, and then we headed back to her room, where I tucked her into bed. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat at the counter to ponder. My wife had essentially left her family to be with her lover. Meanwhile, I had enjoyed a date with a lovely woman who could potentially become my new partner. Tonight had been the most enjoyable in the past year. The intimacy had been incredible, and I wanted it to continue. I desired a companion to share my life with once again. However, my mind cautioned me to take things slowly. On Monday, I reached out to my divorce lawyer to discuss moving forward with the process. Having the financial figures from before, I had a good idea of what divorcing Victoria would entail. It would require tapping into my retirement savings to cover her share of the house, and possibly entail providing a modest amount of alimony for a couple of years. But at this point, it seemed like a necessary expense. It was time to move forward. She showed no interest in returning, and it was evident that she no longer prioritized her children or me. I instructed my lawyer, go ahead and deliver the papers. I have her address, and since she mostly works from home, locating her shouldn't be too difficult. Proceed with it, and let's finalize this marriage. 3 days later, there was a knock at the door of the apartment where Victoria and Henry resided. The process server was adept at gaining access to apartment buildings, so when he knocked, she was the only one present. She opened the door. Victoria Kennedy, this is for you, he stated, handing her the envelope. You've been served. Victoria was taken aback by his words. She knew the contents of the envelope. She slowly shut the door and brought the envelope into the kitchen, placing it on the counter. She waited for over an hour before opening it, reflecting on the past year and her choices. Were they wise decisions? Did she truly consider the consequences when she expressed her desire to have an affair? Was Henry worth sacrificing her life and children for? Although the intimacy with him was unparalleled, was it sufficient? Was her husband, Will, truly so dull as a partner that she felt compelled to leave him and her children? Did she despise her former life enough to exchange it for Henry? These were challenging questions. With caution, she slid open the envelope and withdrew the papers. She handled them delicately, almost as if expecting them to erupt in her face. As she reviewed them, a divorce citing abandonment and infidelity, division of marital assets, and Will's full custody of the children with visitation rights for her, along with alimony of $1,000 monthly for 2 years. She dropped them onto the counter, realizing, finally, oh my God, what have I done? The lies and deceit she had spun for Will over the past 2 years were now haunting her. She could no longer deceive herself into believing she had triumphed, that she could act as she pleased without Will's objection, or that she could engage in relationships with other men without his input. Victoria immediately dialed Will's cell phone, but it went to voicemail. She left a brief message asking him to call her regarding some important paperwork she had received. Then she tried calling her former home, but there was no answer. Realizing she needed to act to salvage her marriage, she grabbed her car keys and purse and headed out. Arriving home, she discovered her key no longer worked in any of the locks, and the garage code had been changed. In full damage control mode, Victoria drove to Will's office. His assistant, who knew about Victoria's affair, informed her that he was out for the day. Unable to reach him there, she returned to her old house, intending to wait for Will and the kids to return from school. The children arrived around 4 p.m. with their after-school sitter. They greeted Victoria with coldness, and her eldest refused to acknowledge her presence beyond a curt inquiry. "What are you doing here?" Victoria sat in the dining room while the kids had a snack and started on their homework. She observed changes in the decor since her last visit: new items on the walls, different curtains, and a few pieces of new furniture. Around 5:15, Will arrived home. Victoria quickly approached him as he entered through the back door. "Will, honey, I'm home, and I'm glad you're here. We need to discuss some papers that were delivered to me today." "Great, Victoria. Did you sign them and bring them along?" "I signed them before my lawyer sent them to you. I believe what I'm proposing is fair and aligns with family and divorce laws in the state. The kids will remain with me." "That's not up for negotiation. However, you can have visitation rights if you'd like, and if they're willing to see you." "Sweetheart, I'm planning to return home tonight. I've realized that I need you and the kids back in my life. I made a mistake thinking I needed someone else. You and the kids are all I need. I understand that now. I'm coming back, and I'll strive to be a good wife and mother." "Not so fast, Victoria. When you chose to leave us for Henry, that was your decision. I remember trying to convince you otherwise, but you were firm about your choice. Well, you made it, and now you have to face the consequences. So no, you're not welcome back. Your home is with Henry now. You don't belong here anymore. It's been a year since you left." Victoria was softly crying now, and I handed her some tissues to wipe her tears. I waited a few minutes for her to regain her composure. "I think it's time for you to leave. Can I spend some time with the kids, please?" "Sure. I'll go get them." I went upstairs to fetch the kids and informed them that their mother was downstairs and wanted to see them. They were hesitant at first, but after some persuasion from me and reassurance that they didn't have to talk to her if they didn't want to, they slowly followed me down to the kitchen. It had been months since they had last seen their mother. Victoria smiled at them and said, "Hi, kids. I need a hug from you." They all stood still and didn't make a move towards their mother. The oldest, Emma, asked her, "Why did you leave us, Mom?" Victoria started crying again. "I'm coming home, kids. I've missed you all so much. I love you all so much." My daughter countered fast. "If you love us so much, why did you leave us and stay away so long?" Victoria had a shocked look on her face at that question. The answer she had was not one that she wanted to admit, that she wanted to have consequence-free sex with men other than her husband and not worry about her family and what it would do to them. She didn't give a crap about her family, only herself. Only now is she realizing what she was losing. I intervened. "Kids, why don't you head back upstairs? Your mom and I need to have a private conversation right now." With disapproving looks, the children left the kitchen, led by Emma. After a brief pause, I started, "So, do you still think leaving us for Henry was a good decision? Did you honestly think you could just leave and return like nothing changed?" I waited for her response, but all I heard was her sniffles and nose blowing. "I've moved forward in case you missed that. I suppose you only realized it when you got those divorce papers today. You rushed over here once you saw your family had enough of your nonsense." Still met with silence and sniffles. "So, gather up whatever belongings you haven't taken yet. I've packed what I could find into boxes in the garage. It should be manageable for you. You can have Henry assist you. If there's anything else you want from here, just let me know. You can take whatever you want except me and the kids." After waiting another minute for Victoria's response, which didn't come, I spoke up. "I believe it's time for you to leave. There's nothing more to discuss. I'm not interested in having you back. The kids aren't eager for your return either. It's best you go back to Henry. If you want, have your lawyer review the divorce papers, and we can let them handle the finer points." I stood up and walked towards the front door, opening it and signaling for her to leave. "Goodbye, Victoria." She sat looking defeated for a moment, then stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked out the front door. I shut the door behind her and exhaled a big breath. 3 months later, my lawyer arranged a final meeting for us to sign the divorce papers. We negotiated the terms of visits with the kids, agreeing that they shouldn't be compelled to see their mother if they didn't want to. Initially, their visits would be supervised by grandparents, with the possibility of unsupervised visits later if things went smoothly. Ultimately, it was up to the kids whether they wanted to see their mother. Surprisingly, they did have a couple of visits. But after meeting Henry, they felt uncomfortable and chose not to return. It seemed they had a good instinct for character judgment. Meanwhile, my relationship with Charlotte evolved as we spent more time together, meeting up 2 or 3 times a week. I proposed that we engage in activities beyond just physical intimacy, suggesting outings with our kids. Her daughters were similar in age to my youngest children, so I was eager for them to meet. Our first outing to the zoo, followed by pizza, went well. The kids got along splendidly. This marked the transition of my relationship with Charlotte from casual to more serious dating. But 1 year later, quite some time has passed, and numerous changes have occurred in my life. I'm a year older and have gained wisdom from my experiences. I now live with Charlotte, or rather the 7 of us share a home together. Handling 5 kids is undeniably challenging, despite what people may say. Thankfully, we all comfortably fit into my house, and by having 2 of the girls share a room, we managed just fine. We formed a close-knit family unit. Charlotte and I tied the knot shortly after blending our families. Our wedding was an intimate affair with close family and friends, officiated by a judge friend on a beach in the Dominican Republic. It was a memorable experience. We make sure to have a date night every week where we focus on each other. Along with enjoying a fulfilling, intimate life, we also prioritize communication. We've both agreed that maintaining open communication is crucial, regardless of the topic. At dinner one night, the kids all told us that they wanted to try camping, so we got some camping equipment and gave it a try at a state park. It turned out great, and the kids had a blast. The campfire and roasting marshmallows were a big hit. Several times when the marshmallows would catch fire, I would see a ball of fire aiming for my head and would duck to avoid getting hit with the gooey, flaming mess. 4 girls and 1 boy can giggle a lot when they have fun with flaming marshmallows. I decided to formally adopt Charlotte's 2 girls, ensuring that everyone in our household shares the same last name. It simplifies things for us. During our usual date night about a month ago, Charlotte surprised me once again. She's an amazing woman who brings me immense happiness every day. That particular evening, as we ordered dinner, I noticed she opted for water instead of her usual glass of wine. While that alone wasn't significant, when she retrieved a small white plastic stick from her clutch purse, I instantly grasped the situation. She smiled as she handed it to me. "You might want to have a peek at this, dear." Wow, she's pregnant. My wife, with whom I've been married for less than a year and with whom I already share 5 children, is expecting another baby. We were quite busy preparing for the new addition to our family. The biggest surprise came when we learned that Charlotte was expecting twins. Now, we're going to have 7 children altogether. Fortunately, I recently got promoted at work and now oversee the legal division of the company. With my increased salary and bonuses, we'll be able to manage the financial responsibilities of a larger family and even save up for their education. To provide our growing family with some summer getaway, we purchased a cottage by a lake about a 2-hour drive from our home. We've started renovating and expanding it to accommodate our active and growing brood. Looking back, I realize how fortunate I am. Despite a failed marriage, I found myself starting anew within just 2 years. What initially seemed like a tough period for me and my children, when Victoria left us for someone else, turned out well when I met a wonderful woman, Charlotte, who loved me and my kids. Each morning, amid the organized chaos of a large family, I felt grateful for the luck I had in meeting Charlotte and her daughters, and now with 2 more children, our family felt complete. Our children got along well, and we were a happy family. Plus, my wife was stunningly beautiful. As for Victoria, her life took its own course. Her relationship with Henry didn't last long after our divorce. It appeared that Henry had a habit of pursuing married women, and soon enough he left Victoria for another woman he lured away from her husband. Victoria continued her job as a book editor and moved into a 1-bedroom apartment where she could work comfortably. I heard she was dating, but beyond that, I wasn't aware of her life. Once, while Charlotte and I were out with the kids, I thought I spotted Victoria downtown. We walked as a group with the older kids holding the hands of the younger ones. We didn't stop to chat with her. I sensed she watched us pass by. Perhaps she reflected on how things could have been different. Or maybe she felt relieved not to be responsible for children and a husband anymore. It's hard to say for sure.